Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. Our guest for this episode is actor Jeremy Sisto, who sat down with me recently as part of the Back Room's live audience conversation series. It's a really fun chat that encompasses Jeremy's early years, his theater, film, and television career, and his experience raising kids. So, enjoy. Well, welcome to the back room. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Before we start, I just want to say, and this is probably the most serious I'm going to be, that when you see somebody up on the screen, you don't often get to know who they are as human beings. So I just want to say that this guy here, probably one of the kindest, most generous, big-hearted human beings I know. So that's it.
Oh, stop it. Thank you. Back at you. We've been very close for a long time.
Yes,
so
we have. And now it's going to be all downhill from here.
This is it. This is the end of our relationship.
I'm going to read a little bio of Jeremy, for those of you who are not fully aware of everything this man has ever done. I have it right here. I'm going to read everything he's ever done.
Oh, God.
And I'm feeling like a little like James Lipton right now. Tonight's guest has become one of the most highly regarded actors of his generation.
Is he still around?
No, he's dead. He died like...
He died.
He's around somewhere. I don't know, but he's dead. He's dead.
All
right, so Jeremy is a film, television, and theater actor currently starring in the hit series on CBS, FBI. He's also a writer, producer, and musician. His past TV credits include 6 Feet Under, Law & Order, National Geographic's miniseries, The Long Road Home, Ice, Wicked City, The Returned, Kidnapped, and the hit ABC sitcom Suburgatory. His extensive film credits include 1995's classic Clueless, the tennis comedy Breakpoint, which he co-wrote and produced, The Other Side of the Door, Hangman, the Oscar-nominated animated hit Frozen 2, the Oscar and Golden Globe-nominated animated film Ferdinand, Grand Canyon, Hideaway, Robot and Frank, Moonlight and Valentino, White Squall, Without Limits, Suicide Kings, 13, Wrong Turn.
Actually reading the entire thing.
Yeah. There's 2 pages. Waitress and Last Night in Rozzy. And his Los Angeles theater credits include Take Me Out, which earned him a Los Angeles Drama Critics Circle Award for featured performance, Sidney Kingsley's Dead End, and the one-man show Sanguine. And in New York, he made his Broadway debut in Festen, a stage adaptation of Thomas Vinterberg's film The Celebration, and starred in Beau Willimonson's Spirit Control at the Manhattan Theater Club, about a man's 30-year struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. But
you know what? If James Lipton was around, he would be interviewing influencers.
He probably would.
I'm glad it didn't go that far, because I feel like that would have happened and that would have been really hard to watch.
But you know what's not on this bio?
What's that?
Jesus. The film Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know who wrote that, honestly. But Jesus should be on there.
Yeah.
Jesus should be there.
You like taking on historically insignificant characters when you...
Yes, I do. Yes, that's kind of my thing. The more insignificant, the better.
I mean, Jesus Christ, how do you even prepare for that?
I must have been 25 or something at the time. And when it came up, it was so outlandish, the idea of me playing Jesus, and something I'd never considered. And I was in a place in my life where I was saying yes to everything. It felt like an experience that I was happy to embrace. The director actually sat down with me, and he was very clear on his vision. He said, most Jesus movies, the guy's kind of creepy. You wouldn't follow him through a desert. We want to make a Jesus that you'd kind of party with. You want to hang out with, got a nice smile, he laughs. And I was like, I like it. Let's do this. And so, we went to Morocco and became close friends with my disciples. I had a bald head at the time, so they could put the wig on, and then hair down here, so I was like an upside-down face. I died on the cross in the same valley that Willem Dafoe died in. They reused that valley. What else can I tell you? It was a great experience.
So when you first get that kind of an offer...
My father was very excited. He was like, what? Yes, that's amazing. Finally, he was never never 100% with my acting, my choice to be an actor until that moment. And then he was like, wait, what does that make me? If you're Jesus, I'm in. But no, I was, like I said, I had gone through a period in my early years of trying to figure out how to be an actor or how to embrace sort of that path. I was very overwrought with all the decisions. And then I just come out of that. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have fun with it. And that came across my desk, and it seemed like an offering of, if you can do this and actually enjoy it, not take it, so seriously that it kind of ruins the experience, then you're on a path that you can enjoy for the rest of your life if you can keep getting work, which
Like, where do you
have been
go
lucky
after you
enough
play
to-
Jesus? Who's bigger than Jesus?
He's big. He's a strong figure. There was a priest along. We had half the money was what came from the Italian people. So the church was very involved. I got to meet the Pope at the time.
Really?
Yes, he was very tired at the time, but he met us. I think he just was like, can we do this? He was on to the next one. But I did. One thing was I had to, he read a thing. We went to the Vatican, and then we all stood in line to meet him, and I couldn't tell. People would bow their heads, but I couldn't tell if they were kissing his ring or not. And I was so afraid. I didn't know if I was supposed to kiss the man's ring or not. So I had to read his face as I was like, and then I realized the kissing shouldn't happen, so I just bowed. But no, they were involved, so we had a priest along with us the whole time, and so that was in.
Did he ever stop the shooting and start correcting you guys like you're doing something wrong?
That's not how it happened. No, he liked the party Jesus. He was into the concept. So yeah. But it was nice to, my father is a spiritual man. He grew up very religious, but became a Buddhist. And so I've had those conversations in my head. And that was the first time I was able to really spend time with a priest and sort of investigate what that path in life would be like. And wasn't for me. I didn't become a priest, but it was a great experience. It really was, yeah.
Was there like an enormous sense of responsibility, like not to screw up when you're playing Jesus?
No, I really had a sense of like, if this is coming my way, I can't mess this up. The first time I had a feeling of like, I can't mess this up if this is happening.
So now you're FBI special agent, Jubal Valentine.
That's right.
Jubal is kind of a unique name. I actually Googled Jubal.
Me too. What did you get?
I got two things.
Go ahead.
One is some obscure biblical reference.
Sure.
And the other is a 1956 Ernest Borgnine film about a new foreman who rejects the sexual advances of a frustrated rancher's wife, which leads to conflicts that could get him killed. Did you make this name Jubal up for the program?
No, but I did look it up. When I first looked it up, I seem to remember learning that it meant horn player or flute player.
I didn't see that.
You didn't see that one? Yeah,
No.
well, I looked it up later and it was something else. I don't remember the last. Every time I look it up, it's a different thing. But yeah, I think it's an Old Testament name, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a
I
biblical.
don't know. I
yeah.
think I'd like to think Dick Wolf came up with it. My name on Law and Order was Lupo, so I think he likes to name me funny names. That's his thing, But Jubal, no, I think that's Jubal Valentine has a lot of character. Any name that has a lot of character is good. It means I have to do less acting.
Sounds like a male stripper. And so, what about improvising? Do you like to do that? Do you get to do that much? You do that on FBI?
Well, it's not improvising exactly, but it is. A lot of the scenes that I do on the show are in this big war room, and I'm yelling at people, and it's a lot of plot that I'm explaining, and a lot of what's going to actually work in there. Sometimes the writers, it's too difficult for them to try to figure that out, so I will instinctually have a thing that might work there. But it's not improvised because everyone's waiting around. You know what I mean? You got a long day. Trying to improvise. You just try to come up with it beforehand. If there's a better version that you can see. And actually, we have a new showrunner who's the main creative writer on the show, and so he just visited for the first time. We just started the season, and he got to see how it works. And it's a very specific energy of how we kind of get through as many pages and kind of try to make them feel fresh. And so I felt that he was able to trust how we do it in there, but not exactly improvising, no.
Mm-hmm. So if you work on a film or a TV show and the director is like, feel free to just say whatever, like, does that make you anxious or do you like that?
It just depends on what the thing is. No, I love that for sure. But it just depends on how much time we have. It depends on, I've never worked with someone like David Fincher, but I think I would love doing many, many takes. But that's not what this particular job is. But yeah, in general, I will feel a lot better going home at the end of the day if I've done a lot of different options, because then they have to decide. I'm not great with decisions, so I give them a lot, and then I'm like, you figure it out. I feel better. I can sleep at night. If I gave them one, then I feel nervous that they won't have the options later.
So you do TV, film, theater. What do you enjoy about each of those things?
I miss theater. It's been a while since I've done that. Theater, I enjoy the rehearsal process. You know, you sit down in a room and you read it, and then you try different things. I like trying different things. I mean, acting in general, I think for me, the reason I like it is I like being watched, apparently. I don't know why that is, because
Get
I need
out.
attention. You know.
Attention, really?
But when I'm being watched and I'm working through some kind of a scene.
He's also one of the most honest guys I know.
When I'm working through scenes and trying to explore my perspective or whatever that is, that you're doing in a scene, trying things out, it feels like I'm trying to learn about me, about how I exist, how I see the world, how I operate. And so in theater, you get to do that in the rehearsal room a lot. And then you do it on stage, and that's great. There's a lot of excitement, and that's super fun. But then you have to do it over and over and over again. That becomes hard for me because they like when you do it the same way, but I don't like to do that. So I change it up a lot because I want it. And so some people don't love that. Some other actors sometimes don't love it because it means that some performances are great, alive, new, and some are not as good. And maybe their agents were in the house that night and it was not the best thing. So that's that. And then TV I like a lot because it moves, there's a lot of movement. You don't have as much time with the script. You're telling a story consistently. You're searching, you're exploring, you're finding it. Film is much more precious, and that can be harder for me. If I have too much time with the script, I can overthink it, and there's more traps for me to get myself into a place where I'm tight and I'm unable to kind of be fluid within it. But ultimately, it's project to project. There's some plays that I'd love to be on and some I wouldn't, and that goes with all the mediums.
And so back to FBI now. Do you have to do like 20 weeks at Quantico for your training?
Yes, I did.
Seriously?
No, not at all. But I did get to, go and meet. I've got some FBI agents on my Rolodex. We still have those? Rolodex.
No. You're older. You're older than me.
Well, I am older than you. And yeah, so I got to go in and check that out. And that was kind of the reason I wanted to do it. I really was interested to see how they work, the way they prevent crimes and prevent bad things from happening. They have a really active, exciting way of structuring how the information moves and how they connect other organizations to this real-time sort of problem solving. And so, yeah, I got to go in and talk with them, and I continue to kind of talk with them because it's also evolving with the technology. But yeah, no Quantico though.
So from terms of authenticity, obviously you guys find the person and then everything's wrapped up in an hour. So that's clearly not authentic in real life. But in terms of the set, the banter, the talk, the technical stuff, like, is that authentic, or is it just all kind of Hollywood stuff?
Well, I mean, it's all Hollywood stuff in the sense that every week it wants to be a movie. And so I try to use as much of how it really works and try to infuse that into what is a cinematic arc and, and all the high stakes stuff that, there's my role. I have a friend who's a DA. He calls people in my role pencil pushers or paper pushers, whatever that term is. Like, they're office guys, you know what I mean? And in truth, they are. A lot of times they're preventing stuff. They're in there passing stuff around. So it's a lot more of a, paperwork type of thing. But when there's an active shooter, when there's something horrible going on, they do all pile in this room and they use as much information as possible coming in from all these different directions. And there is one person that is trying to conduct that information so it gets the best result. So we're using that element. But yeah, we can't have, if it was like 6 Feet Under, the version of this show, there'd be some episodes where we'd just be hanging out and kind of doing some stuff. We can't have that. It's got to be, high adrenaline. I did just talk to a new agent, and I had gotten down a road of feeling like, this is pretty far off. Like, things don't happen. They don't use traffic cams that much, that quickly. But in talking to him, we're closer than I thought. Well, that's a good thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. They do have a lot of ability to dig into people's lives and dig into the, everything is being recorded. And that's really what's changed sort of crime prevention and crime fighting.
So you've done Law and Order, FBI.
Yeah.
And when you walk around the streets, the cops kind of look at you like you're one of them.
Yeah, I do. Back when I used to drink, I do remember being on Law and Order and being a little drunk on the street and seeing a cop, and he's like, "Yeah." Then he recognized me. And I was super stoked. I was like, "This is working out for me," But yeah, they do.
They get pulled over on the Taconic or something.
I did get a ticket the other day for being on my phone. I was hoping.
Did they recognize you or no?
They did, and I wanted to. I was actually the reason
right?
I was looking at my phone was I was reading this. I was working on my lines, and I was going to tell him. I thought he'd be impressed, but he wouldn't.
When did you start acting?
So my mother, I guess, was an actress when she was young, and then she was with my father, and then they were divorced, and she took me and my sister to Chicago and became a single mother trying to act herself. So we were just always with her, and so the casting directors wondered if we wanted to audition, and my mom was just in love with this idea of acting. She loved it. And we went to a really rough school, and our lives had been pretty traumatic before that. And then the school, we just were trying not to get beat up. And so having these plays, I got my first play, my sister and I got a play. It was Tennessee Williams' last play when he was still alive. And it was a great experience. You're with these actors, they're all, they're mature, they're adults, but they're playful, and they're really sweet to get. So those were great experiences up until high school, when I finally was like, all right, I should hang out with people my own age. And Chicago had, most of them were with these small theater groups. And what was great about, still exists in places like Chicago, and doesn't exist in LA and New York as much, which is people doing this craft and having their day jobs and not really caring about, they're not trying to become stars or even make money off of it, there was such a pureness to what that was that I think that stuck with me. And then I came to LA and lost it, lost all that.
Became a shallow Angelino.
It just started to try to sell but no, it is sad. It's in LA, and you just get caught up in an ambition of it all, and you can lose, some of the other stuff, some of the other reasons to do it.
Who did you look at as an actor and want to be or inspired by?
I always loved Jeff Bridges. Did a movie with him, and he was great. He's just somebody who, and I actually did a podcast with him recently about it. We did a movie called White Squall, and one of the actors has another podcast, and then he had us all on, and Jeff was there, and even the way Jeff talks about that film and the way he always talked about these films that I loved at the time had nothing to do with the film themselves. He would always about the experience. And that's what's really amazing about somebody like that, is he's just fully based in acting and storytelling as a life and not as the end result. Not that he doesn't discount the end result, but that's not why he's there. So I think that was the way he sort of invests himself in it in a searching kind of self-exploration way is something I've always looked up to. But
are you going to do Jeff Bridges for us?
No, I don't do impressions. No.
I've heard you do it.
You've heard me do a Jeff Bridges
I've
impression?
heard you do Jeff Bridges.
Wow. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
And what would you consider your first big break?
Well, yeah, I was 16, and I was very fortunate to get a movie called Grand Canyon, which was Larry Kasdan was a very successful guy at the time and very well loved. And
Big Chill, right?
Big Chill, yeah. Big Chill was sort of, when I moved out to LA, every single person you meet was like, I'm making kind of a Big Chill type movie. Everyone loved the Big Chill idea.
Big Chill type.
A Big Chill, yeah. Everyone had their own Big Chill. Anyway, this was a movie that he wrote with his wife, and one of the characters was one of his sons, and I was the same age and had a similar thing. I mean, I think I looked very awkward and stiff, but yeah, I got that. It was a huge deal. I think that was something growing up that was very impossible, like such a far-fetched concept that my mom or any one of us could be in that world. We did commercials and little plays, but I think my mom always, held that as an idea. So it was great. I went to LA, stayed at the Oakwood. Remember the Oakwoods? Furnished short-term housing, which was, so there was actors, musicians, and then like criminals and like people running from stuff. It was a great combination.
Real criminals or like actors playing
I
criminals?
know, like it was straight up like, who are you? And that, yeah, there was not, it was great. They were interesting people though. And yeah, just suddenly I was in a room with people that I had seen on movies. And then I went back to school and came back. And I've had a series, you need a series of moments of luck to continue a career like this. And I've had a series of them that have allowed me to continue working after that, and then to continue working as I grew older. And so yeah, I've had a few, but that was the big one.
I want to talk about.
I did do I should say my first movie was, I was a young child. It wasn't my fault, but it was a porno. So I did I was like 8, and I did this, it was a student film.
Wait, in case anybody's not sure that they heard, he said he did a porno when he was a kid.
I didn't know it was a porno, so it was a horror, short film, a horror called Black Christmas. And I was a kid, and I think I killed my parents. I don't know what I was doing. My mother's choice, blame her. Anyway, years later, we were in high school. My mom's like, yo, that movie you did is in the theaters, and we went. And it was a series of short things. The first one was my Black Christmas, which I'm cut out of, so we have no proof of this. And then there was a comedy thing, like making fun of Phil Donahue, and then there was like an orchestra of women with a male conductor, and then they started to strip and have some fun. There was only playing at
That
like
explains a lot.
11 a.m. on Saturday, on Tuesday. So we should have known, but anyway, but that wasn't a good break. But
So I want to talk about a few of your projects in a second, but looking back on your career, were there things that you auditioned for that you didn't get and wanted? Titanic.
not most things. Most things I auditioned for I didn't get. Yes, that's how it works.
Can we hear a little "I'm the King of the World"?
Yeah. Yeah,
Little
no,
Jack
I did.
Dawson.
Yeah, that was actually James Cameron had. There was quite a few people that I think saw me in Grand Canyon and had some kind of connection with me, like maybe because I just didn't seem like somebody who would show up in movies. I just was like this sort of awkward kid from Chicago. And anyway, he cast me in a movie that was never made called The Minds of Billy Milligan. They just did a TV show based on the book. And then that didn't happen. And then this came along, and I came in and I said, I really want to. He said, no, you're not right for this. And so I wrote him this letter. This is pre-internet. So I remember I made up a quote from Truffaut. I couldn't find one, and I needed something said exactly right to make him think I was the guy. Don't remember what the quote was, but anyway, it convinced him to bring me in to test for Titanic. I mean, honestly, I don't even know if I was just there reading with the other actresses, or he says the opportunity was available to me. But yeah, I mean, listen, it is a life full of investing in things, getting super excited, trying to convince people that you're the thing, and then not getting it, and then seeing it and like either becoming a fan or there's a lot of that went into trying to stay confident and all that stuff. But Lee was great. I mean, listen, I would have cast him too.
What about the question of like, did you ever get something and turn it down and then regret it?
Rarely. I mean, I don't come from money, so I was like, anytime anyone would offer me anything, I'd be like, I mean, it's this or
Kitty
wait.
porn. Kitty porn. We get it.
Yeah, exactly. I started out with but no, I was never very good at saying no. I could usually find something interesting about a thing, because it's not like you have a list of things they're offering. They're like, you can take this or wait for the next thing. And if you don't, or, you don't have that optimism or whatever. So yeah, there was maybe a couple of things. There was one, I will say, that I had tested for this John Wells pilot and didn't get it. And then he offered me Third Watch. It was a show called Third Watch. It was a cop show. And back then, that was movies and TV. You're either one or the other. That was kind of the thing back then. So I started out in movies, and eventually I was like, all right, let's do TV too. And so he offered me that. But at the same time, I was offered this show called Young Americans. And all these kids that were in like Dawson's Creek were getting all the movie roles. And so I was like, I'm going to do this other show, even though it seems silly. And it was an extremely silly show. And actually, when it got picked up, after I saw it, I called my agent and I was like, please, can you get me out of this? It's not, when all the kids were like doing push-ups before their takes, and I was like, I'm in the wrong show. This is not. And then my agent called me back a couple months later. He was like, you're good. You're out. I got you out. And then like a year later, I ran to the producer and he said, I'm so sorry we had to fire you. I was like, I respect that from my agent. He's like, problem solved, good to go. I wonder if John Wells is mad at me because he's a very talented fellow. So if you see him, tell him I'm sorry I did that, and I'd like to.
No, we happen to have him right back there. He's just
Come on down.
sitting in the back. Let's talk about Clueless.
Okay.
Was that fun to make?
Yeah, it was fun. It wasn't as involved as it was the experience, and then its longevity is kind of outweighed.
Right. It wasn't
by its
like
longevity.
classic when you were making it. You didn't know.
No,
it was
we
just a
didn't
film.
think it was going to be that.
Right.
You know, and I had done a series of like very dark movies around that time, like studio things that didn't
Jesus.
get recognized. No, Jesus wasn't there yet, and so yeah, it was fun. It was fine. And, it was enjoyable, I suppose.
Why do you think it's such a classic? Decades later.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to tell because it was a period of my life where I guess I was 19, 20, whatever. I just wasn't watching those kinds of movies. So it's the one period where I can't understand the cultural relevance, which is ironic because I was in it. But it's been, so for a while I was afraid that would be my only successful thing, and it would feel somehow like embarrassing or something if I hadn't gone on to do some other stuff. And also at the time, actors that were Brando and Kilmer, all these actors that were brooding and dark and complicated were the people that we looked up to. And so it felt somehow like it didn't fit that trajectory, even though Sean Penn was in Fast Times, Amy's other movie. But anyway, then 10 years later, when it started to it was great. I've gotten so many jobs in my, 20 years later because some director grew up watching that, and it was meaningful to her. And, I'm super, super grateful to be in something that has continued to be something that young people respond to.
Where does Rolling with the Homies fit in your life? Like, is it a good thing?
Yeah. Well, no, like in those
Can we
early
get a little
years,
Rolling
I
with the
was like,
Homies? I mean, you're not doing Jeff Bridges, but can you do
yeah,
Rolling with the Homies?
Rolling with the Homies. Yeah, in the beginning, there was was very resistant, reluctant to do those, and now I offer them very freely. Yeah,
It's like you're Freebird at a Skinner concert.
Exactly. I'm happy to roll with the Homies. Yeah.
Funny story. My daughter, who's now 20, we're very close with Jeremy and his family. We also are close with the Rudds, Paul Rudd and Julie and their kids. And so about 10 years ago, when she was about 10, I said, why don't we watch Clueless together? Because two people in the film. She goes, really? And I said, yeah, Jeremy and Paul. So we watched the film. And when it was over, she goes, wow, Jeremy really aged a lot, but Paul still looks exactly the same.
That's a true story. That man is not
Kids.
Yeah.
Kids, right?
Yeah.
Gotta love them.
Very honest.
6 Feet Under.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
That was, very.
You played Billy Chenoweth, really fucked up guy.
Yeah.
Do you like playing screwed up people?
Well, I mean.
And how
yeah,
biographical do you get when you do that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that was, yes, playing complicated people is great when it makes sense in the story. I mean, I think one of the, I was just thinking about this on the way up because I was thinking about, I would have to talk about myself. I was like, what should I talk about? And I was thinking about 6 Feet Under and that relationship between Nate and Brenda. And it was very honest and kind of, I think, rare on television to show that kind of reality in relationships where the complication of taking somebody on with all of their psychological complications and things that are so built in that you have to learn how to exist within it. And I was, her love for me, my love for her, Billy's sort of mental health, all of that was this huge albatross in their relationship. And it was just very well told. Alan had just done American Idol, American Beauty, and won an Academy Award for it. And he joined the HBO team with Sopranos, and it was a very new thing. And so it was a very special experience to be a part of that because people who were watching felt that they were watching something really personal. It was just a very different way to sort of interact with stories on TV. And so, yeah, it was great. And I do love playing complicated characters. I think we're all very complicated. It's just about writing complicated people is challenging. And and then writing them in a story that is interesting and entertaining is another challenge, complicated. But that one was, yes, that one exists in a place in my mind that I'm very grateful for.
Do you watch your own stuff sometimes?
Constantly, just constantly. No.
And so when you see yourself, what do you
Yeah.
like? Do you cringe or do you?
I
Like, hey,
do
I'm
know. I
pretty
think I
good.
learned a lot from what early on in my career. In my first, few years, it was very hard for me because I would work very hard. I would do all this research and all this homework, and I do all these classes, and they tell you to do all these things, and I would do them all, and then I'd show up and I'd do a scene, and I'd just try to tense my face up. I don't know how to get all that work that I had done in the past onto the screen because I didn't understand how I looked or how it looked. I didn't understand that concept. I think one of the reasons I wanted to be an actor or was drawn to it is that I feel that people can always see inside my brain and my whatever, can see inside me, see what's going on inside me, which is not actually true, And so I had to learn that, and I learned that from just being able to watch myself a lot and realizing that sometimes the best thing is doing nothing. I remember there was Timothy Hutton there was a scene in what his big movie was back in when he was young called
Ordinary People.
Thank you. Yeah, he was looking out the window and I was talking to his friend at the time, and I was like, what was he? It felt like he was so there, and he's like, Redford actually asked him to just count to 10 in his head during that take. He wasn't getting it, so he said, just look out here and count to 10 in your head. And I was like, yeah, that's the thing about this kind of filmmaking is there's a trickery to it, you know what I mean? And so sometimes I would be feeling so much, and then I watch it and I'm like, I'm not doing anything. And I needed to be doing something there. And then sometimes I'm like, so finding that balance of like what it takes for me personally to feel and emote and what you can read is something that watching me, I had to learn, I guess.
And another complicated character, of course, I'm biased on this movie, Waitress, my late wife's movie. You played Earl, who was also a pretty bad dude, yet incredibly likable and rootable. How do you do that?
You rooted for Earl? Then?
Sure. Well, when you were on your knees crying,
Yes. You felt for him.
you don't
I don't
love
think
me
you rooted
anymore.
for him.
Come on, you were so pathetic.
I was pathetic.
How do you not root? How do you get in that kind of headspace where you're kind of a dick in a movie, but you also need to show the kind of vulnerability to become likable and rootable?
Yeah, I mean that's just in the writing, I think. But yeah, also I guess whatever you're trying to play, you're trying to figure out a way to make it feel like the need is real or whatever, the pain is real, and then people are empathetic. And back then, anti-heroes were much more popular than they are now. So now it's more challenging to
Can't beat your wife like you used to.
Well, it's like with a thing like Ripley, whenever I try to create TV shows or anything, everyone's always, what's the likable character? And, the films that I came to love in my life, a lot of the characters were very difficult to love, but that's just an effect of knowing what they want and what's going on, what's their pain, what's the...
Well, it's interesting what you said about the writing, because I remember Adrienne would always tell me that, and this was just her style, what she believed, but she always said, you got to make the characters rootable, even the bad ones.
Yeah, she's a great writer.
And I think that's, for Waitress, everyone was rootable in their own way, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was, I remember I was doing a play with her friend at that time, Dead End, and LA, Pam, and she actually told me about Adrian's movie and said, the Earl is the best character. And when I read it, and also Adrian had such a clear idea of the character and how to, I think there's an instinct that I have sometimes to sort of lean into the parts that are undigestible about a character, and that was not her idea. She wanted to make something attractive about him, or something that you could empathize with, something that you could sympathize with. Yeah.
And then you did Suburgatory, a sitcom with our mutual pal Cheryl. Do you like doing a sitcom? That was like a different thing for you.
Yeah, but it wasn't live. It wasn't live audience. I'd never done that, and I think that would probably be pretty fun. It just felt like a movie. It's just a regular. You just do it like a movie. But it was, yeah, with the idea of being funny. It was a great time in my life. I had young kids, so just you had to be in a good mood. You have to be in a good mood. You have to be light. You have to be buoyant, and so that was exactly what I needed at the time. But also just surrounded by Cheryl and all these great comedians and improvisers. It was just a really joyous set to be a part of.
So let's switch gears and let's talk about parenting, because you do have 2 kids.
Yes.
Teenager.
Yeah.
Teenagers are not nice people, as we know. When you were younger, before you had kids, was that something you saw for yourself later on? Like, did you always, like one of these young guys that always wanted kids?
No.
So you just woke up one day and you were like, how the fuck do I have kids?
No, I don't know how it happened. It just was, I met Addie.
Well, I can tell you how it happened.
Met Addie, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've always loved kids. I've always been family centric or whatever. I've always, connections, those close connections always been important to me. But yeah, I didn't have a typical upbringing, so I didn't have a really sort of an example that was like, let's do this. So it all feels new.
What would you say is like the biggest shock about being a parent, like that you were not at all prepared for?
I mean, it's just everything. It's just that your happiness will always be based on whether this other person is doing well, and that is just a huge thing. It's so big. So like, it's changed the entire world. It changed the world. So I don't know what it would be like otherwise. I'm about to turn 50. I'm not sure what it would look like if I hadn't. But it's definitely challenging. You know what I mean? Because you look at the world differently. Things scare you in a different way. Confusion about where things are going or whatever is just, it takes on a different color.
And I would think most people would think you're a pretty cool dad, but as we know, our kids don't see us that way usually. How do you think your kids see you? Do you think that they see you as cool, or are you just kind of?
I think they see me as fun. I don't know about cool. Definitely not cool. But definitely, yeah. I mean, they see me in different ways. I'm kind of a little harder on them about certain things, and so I sometimes can be a little naggy. So I just trying to find that balance. But because I also love playing games with them and hanging out, and I love just hanging out with them. But I also feel really responsible to make sure they're, doing the things that they're supposed to be doing and all that. So that's exhausting. I don't like that back and forth. But yeah, I think they think I'm all right. I mean, we have a very strange sense of humor, and so there's a lot of things that are funny in our house that I have to be like, it's not funny out there. You have to just really make sure, check your audience, and hey, we'll see how it all works out.
What have you done as a dad that scored you major points?
Scored me major points?
Yeah. Like Taylor Swift tickets, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, my daughter really always wants to go to like these. There was a period where she wanted to take her friends to these premieres, and so I mean, I don't like these things, but we would go to those and do these carpet things, and I'm not even sure if it was a good thing to do. Maybe it was a bad thing to do. In my head, I'm like, this is bad, but she wants to do it. I don't know, so we do that. So
you get your props for it?
From her?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not exactly like that. It's not an even trade, but I'm very clingy. She calls me clingy dad because I'm always like, hey, you want to hang out or whatever. And I think I hope she. It's like, stop talking about me. Yeah. So I don't know. Parenting is great and complicated.
You say that so convincingly.
It is great, though, isn't it? Lovely.
So circling back to acting, the last question. You mentioned something earlier about TV and film and how they used to be very different. And that's really interesting because I remember those days where actors didn't go to TV unless they really couldn't get a job in film. Whereas today, all the great writing, the great content, it's like TV is where it's happening. Do you see that kind of thing continuing? Because film seems to really be struggling these days while TV is really thriving.
Yeah, well, it was those early days. I mean, those for most of my adult 20s and 30s, the industry was in a different place. It was also, and this is probably emboldened by the fact that I was young and everything seemed bigger, but there was just more self-importance about it. It was important. It was, actors wouldn't do commercials, These movies were very culturally important things, and it just felt like that. And so that aligned with being young and like being a part of something. I don't feel it is the same now. It doesn't exist the same. People now, actors are like, I'll sell whatever you want me to sell. Just give me money. It's not important to like protect your like image anymore. It's it's just a different. I think people are much more grateful to just be working now, and to be able to do this. Whereas back then, there was, and some of that stuff was not great, but there was also something beautiful about it, being a part of something that really felt. Now it just doesn't feel quite as integral to the culture. It's still a nice part of it, and the shows that they have are great. There's so many different stories you can watch, and people can find things that really speak to them and have a lot of content to absorb from that.
Do you have like a couple of favorite shows that you're watching?
Yeah, well, Ripley, I just watched it a while ago. I thought that was great and pretty interesting, really. It's, very hard to make something like that has a very specific point of view cinematically on how they're telling the story, to create an entire sort of concept of a show based on one character's personality. It's just rare. But there's a lot of great things. I just watched Under the Bridge. There's a lot of amazing things out there, but it's just not streamlined in the sense of like things matter culturally in the same way. It feels like. Do you feel like that too?
I mean, when I watch TV, I'm pretty much just numbing out. So
yeah, I think there's more of that.
Like a zombie, just shutting my brain off. Well, thanks for doing this.
That was awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you. This episode of The Back Room was edited and produced by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-edited and co-produced by Maddie Rosenberg and co-produced by Jen Hammoud. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Hollander, and our logo was designed by Cricket Langell. And special thanks to Patricia Wind. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, and also follow or subscribe. Until next time, keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and have a great week.